We just had the park fire start on Wednesday, and I got an evacuation notice, and I was on a plane to Chicago, and I couldn't get off, and I felt hopeless as a father and a husband.
The urgent battles against more than 100 wildfires in the U.S. The park fire in Northern California front and center, and growing at an incredible pace.
And we had this time of 24 hours where roads are closed, evacuation notice, and fire's gone through, and you don't know if you have a house or not.
Dr. Kremer, thanks so much for taking the time to come on the GrowOrtho podcast.
Thanks for having me, Luke.
Absolutely. So tell us just a little bit about yourself and your background.
Dentistry became an opportunity to, how can I help people? You know, I think in healthcare or the healing arts, we have this ability to want to take care of people, you know, and I kind of had a love for animals growing up, and my dad was a dentist, and I was going to be a veterinarian. And then I kind of looked at the lifestyle and go, yeah, you know, I like animals, but I don't want to be putting them to sleep. So I think I'll go into dentistry where I can help people and, you know, treat their problems. So that was the driving force behind it.
It's interesting how similar those specialties are. Vet offices have followed very similar paths in correlation with dentistry. So that's interesting. Been to the vet a lot lately because I have a farm and I have some farm cats. So we've been dealing with that. That's been fun.
I grew up in the country, and we had cows and horses, and I raised pigs and sheep for 4-H and FFA. So.
Oh, nice. I was in 4-H. I didn't have any animals, but I was in the group and actually on their clay shooting team when I was like 13 and 14. So that was pretty cool. How did you know that you wanted to go into private practice? And then what did your journey look like? Explain when you got into it, you were really more focused on the clinical side, but then how that turned into you actually acquiring practices.
So being focused on the clinical side and really wanted to be, you know, providing the best quality care I could. And then you learn about customer service techniques that go along with that. And then other offices started reaching out and say, you know, through the reps would show up and say, hey, that office, it really likes what you're doing. They're hearing great things. And would you be interested in helping them out? And so these other docs just said, hey, will you just acquire my practice and I'll just stay on and focus on the dentistry side. So it kind of happened organically, and we did that, and we acquired some other practices. And so we ended up doing 7 or 8 mergers and acquisitions in the area. And then we built out facilities. So we have a 10 and a 15 operatory facility with 7 doctors. And then we're building an implant center. And then we have a couple of other locations right now that we're acquiring.
Most dentists that I know really struggled from going from the clinical side to the business side. In fact, most just stay within the clinical realm because that's what they like. That's why they became a clinician. How did you start to become really focused on the business side?
Realizing that it's a pain point, and you know, we've known for years that, you know, dentists, physicians are not very good business people, and so if there's a pain point there or a gap, it's like, how do we fill it? And so just like wanting to be the best I can be clinically, then going on and learning, okay, what's the best way to run a company and manage a business? So I took some mini MBA courses and things like that and learned about KPIs and finance and managing stuff. And so from there, putting in the barometers or the metrics to evaluate how healthy you are. And you know, when I look at colleagues and look at different practitioners, some of them really are great clinicians and they love that. And that's where they should stay. And other ones really enjoy the business or entrepreneurial side and growing. And that's fun too. So it's kind of about finding your niche or what you enjoy. And it's okay to just be a great clinician and get well compensated for it. So it's all about, again, just discovering where your passion lies.
Yeah, I think part of it too is what's the outcome that you're wanting, you know, and that can be totally different based on the business owner. In this case, you know, we happen to be talking about dentists, but it could really be any business owner. What's the business that you want to create and why do you want to create that? And I just know in my personal journey, I've had to grow and become better at things that maybe I didn't like. But as I grew in that area, maybe I became to like that more. And so I would also encourage people, and my question to you is, as you began to identify some of these things that were bottlenecks, speed bumps, problems, sounds like they became more so opportunities, and they can be fixed with the right process and system. So how did you start to identify, hiring, knowing more about business leadership? How did you start to identify these, and then what'd you do for a solution or to be able to grow and, just be better in that arena?
I think it comes down to structure and implementing a good solid structure into something and defining the different roles, coming up with an organizational chart, and then looking at who does what, and then determining, do you have the right people in your organization that can help you, and understanding that, we all have our strengths and weaknesses, and we can't be, when you start out as a sole proprietor, you're the jack of all trades and you do it all. But if you're going to grow, you have to understand where your strengths lie, where you should focus your time, and then find the people to fill in where you're deficient. And so that's been a key for me. And I think what you tapped on there a moment ago was the reason why. And so much right now in dentistry, the big buzz is like, private equity and build something up and shell it off. And then I hear about the horror stories of that. So I'm more about, how do we preserve the quality of private practice in dentistry? And so for me, I kind of changed my barometer, how I measure my impact that I can provide. So what's my impact score? So that is like, how many people am I having an impact on via team members, or how many patient visits are we serving, or how many other offices? So how can we touch more humanity and have a positive impact on our world? And so from that, what I kind of looked at the leadership stuff, and I saw that so much of that success, and I'm not necessarily the most successful person, but I do my best to learn from successful people, either historically or currently. And it comes back to mindset. So it's like when you talked about turning an obstacle to an opportunity, so much of it is developing your mindset and your belief system. So that I actually wrote a book on that, and I have that coming out this September. And so that's kind of my big thing now, is if we can develop a person's mindset and their series of belief systems, that's really going to determine what action steps they take in what direction they want to go.
Who are some of the people that you studied for mindset and personal development?
So I love like looking at autobiographies and past successful people. I love Ben Franklin, and I talk about in the book, like virtues tracking, where you don't, a KPI doesn't have to necessarily track a dollar sign, or you can track anything. So tracking the virtues that are important to you, and working on being your best version of self in life, I think is really cool. Abraham Lincoln is another one. And then looking at successful business people over time, of course, Steve Jobs was a remarkable entrepreneurial story. What Elon Musk, obviously controversial, these guys, but what they're able to accomplish is pretty remarkable. So if you can take the strengths and the things that you want from people and learn from those, and then you've got people like the Dalai Lama or Mahatma Gandhi that are remarkable people too. So just a whole gamut of different types of people.
Yeah, that somewhat reminded me of Stoicism, all the way back to Marcus Aurelius. And it would seem in reading some biographies myself that the forefathers largely studied people like Marcus Aurelius, or figures within Stoicism, really big into just being virtuous. And I think that's why we still study them today, is while they were not perfect, they actually lived up to a value system and did their best to maintain that, which is extremely admirable. So the cause and the why wasn't, like you were saying, a dollar sign. It was so much more than that in terms of helping a civilization.
Marcus Aurelius's Meditations is just one of the great classics. I reread it again last year, and absolutely. And I think that the media and Hollywood gives capitalism a bad rap. And then when you look at like what other countries provide out there, we're the greatest country in the world. And nothing is perfect, but we also, if we look at the impact that provides, and most companies, you've got these great values and these great things they provide to their teams as well as to their customers. It's pretty powerful.
There's so many people I have worked with or just had conversations, again, not even inside of dentistry, but certainly it does apply. And it's so easy to not look into this stuff that we're talking about, specifically in the US. Really, any first world country, we're even the people who are not doing so well here comparatively, they're doing extremely well when you zoom out and you look at the rest of the world. And so oftentimes we just get complacent. And I've been there too. When I say that, I'm saying that to myself, but it's so important to, when you normalize, continue to set targets, KPIs, goals for yourself to be able to grow. And it's really important, I believe, for business owners as well. So love that you're bringing that up. So many dentists I know try and do everything, like you were saying. Business owners, it's kind of the entrepreneurial curse. I don't know if you've read the E-Myth.
Oh yeah.
But what do you tell people who are stuck on that hamster wheel? What are some of the first steps they can do to get off that hamster wheel?
I think it really goes back to, the unexamined life is not worth living. And so what in what we do in our company and what we do with doctors and team members is we work on really helping them discover what's important to them. And the more that we can understand, okay, it's great to make a good living and all of that, and we want to have, financial security and be able to pay our bills, but we can't take that with us. And so all money is a means for exchange for great experiences and quality of life. And so the most important thing is to really spend the time. And I like to actually have people schedule time outside of their practice, outside of seeing patients, that is focused on them, where they're going to do like reflection time and go in and really do deep dives on, hey, what's really important to me? And we help people like break their life out into different categories and then define where they are now and where their ideal would be and how to help them get there. And what's great about that is what we realize in success is, success leaves clues. And so if we find people, mentors, advisors who have been there, done that, and help us on our way, then we can see growth, we can see movement and improvement, because happiness is in that journey, that human quest. It's not in the getting there, it's knowing that you're already there and you're just expanding from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. So Kramer Leadership, do you work specifically just with dentists, or do you work with every specialty within dentistry?
We actually work with business owners.
Okay.
And because it's a mindset thing, and like my book that's coming out in September, it's an all play, it's for all businesses, for all people, because it's more about how you develop yourself and your thinking, which impacts obviously your success in your business, but also impacts your personal life and your relationships and everything. So we work with all types of businesses.
And what's the program like? I mean, are you working with people for 3 months? Are you working with people for years? What's that look like?
We're pretty open on that. I don't lock people into any type of set thing. It's more of having a personalized conversation and discovering, okay, where are you? What's really important? And are we the people that can help you get there? And so sometimes it can be individualized, and other times having a mastermind group where you've got like-minded people together
Mm,
in a small group of 6 to 12 people, where you're able to bounce ideas off each other and have like accountability partners on things. That's really powerful too.
nice. Um, Tell us a little bit about your book. You've mentioned it a few times. I believe you said it's coming out in September. What are some of the things that we can look for in the book, and where can we get it?
Yeah, I think you did a series of podcasts on mastering your mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And the book's called Quantum Accountability. And what I mean by that is the quantum is the unseen. It's not the matter in, that it's not the hard surfaces in Earth, in life. It's that non-physical. It's the energy, and those are what we see and what we hear and what develops our thinking and our behaviors and our attitudes. So all of that stimulus that's coming in, that develops our mindset. So I had my wife co-author this with me because she's a great writer and helped articulate my thoughts into to text. And in the concept of, if you really pay attention to what you're feeding, just like, we know when what we feed our body,
Mm-hmm.
if we're going and hitting fast food every day and all of a sudden we look at the obesity problem in this country and, oh, we're 300 pounds. Well, there's a reason we got there. So
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going through a time of mental obesity with social media and online streaming content. We are exposed to so much information. And now with AI coming out, it's logarithmic and it's wonderful, but it's important to put blinders on and really filter through and decide, what am I going to feed my mind? What am I going to be watching? What am I going to be listening to? Who am I going to be spending my time with as peers, masterminds, as mentors? And that is going, we know the old adage of, you are the 5 people you spend your most time with.
Yep.
That's going to develop your mindset and your belief systems, which will then help form the action steps or the doing in your life that determines what you reap. It determines your level of success or abundance.
I love that. And something that you brought up, I started to realize through the internet and social media that not everyone is what they claim to be, if you could imagine that to be true. And what I really started to dig into, like you're talking about, autobiographies, studying dead people. I mean, if you just go on YouTube and look at the influencers there, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, that are big today or have been big for the last couple years, what if you could go back and study everyone for the past 10,000 years? And we're so fortunate because we can do that. Everything is literally in the palm of our hands. So one of my favorite YouTube channels is called the Biography Channel. And I've watched so many biographies: George Washington, Ben Franklin, Henry Ford, J.W. Marriott, and so many more. And you know what I love is when I'm feeling stressed out or overwhelmed, or, people say burnout, I go back and watch these stories and the things that these people went through and what they overcame. And you kind of wonder, what were they thinking? Because it seems as like it was just everyday life, and oh well, like we'll get over it, we'll move on. I might have to work for the next 20 years to solve this, but eventually I'll get through it. So it's pretty encouraging to go back and look at these people and these figures and their stories.
It really is. I mean, it's remarkable what people have gone through to get to a level of success. And so it's like when we feel like, oh gosh, this is so difficult. You're right. If we can put it in context and see what some really successful people have gone through, it's like, oh, this is nothing. Mm-hmm. This is peanuts. And so it helps us shift our mindset, right? Mm-hmm. and give us perspective and then give us insight into what we could do, or just in staying the course sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
Because again, life, it's not meant to be, roses and butterflies and happiness all the time. I mean, we seek that and we can have that, but life can be challenging.
Hmm.
You know, like the old saying that growth lies outside our comfort zone. That's
Yeah.
what growing is. We go into things that aren't familiar territory. But then when we succeed and we look back and we acknowledge, it's pretty powerful to go, oh, that's really cool. Look at what we did.
Hmm. Certainly. Yeah. Growth doesn't come without pain. So if you're not going through pain, you're not growing. And if you're not growing, you're not really going anywhere. Again, it's back to complacency and conformity. Uh, you know, part of your book title, you said quantum accountability. Accountability, how do you have accountability for yourself? And then how do you help others create accountability, like your team?
So I think that's really important in today's day because accountability is taking ownership for things. And
Mm,
we have certain leaders that want to try and teach us that, oh, well, we'll take care of you, we'll give you everything, you just sit back and you'll be taken care of. And it's nice to have when you're a child a parent that's there to take care of you. It's nice to have when you're a wife, a husband, that, hey, I've got you, you know, and have
yeah.
that security. Yet it's also important to understand that we don't get anywhere in life without us taking responsibility and us taking accountability and taking action. So it is up to us to seek out success and be successful. And that's the accountability thing. Is it's like someone once told me that, well, if God wanted me to be rich, I would have been rich by now. It's like, well, wait a second. He provided all of these great resources in front of you and you didn't take action on those.
Hmm.
So we have to at some point take accountability for our actions and where we go. And that's what I mean by that.
Yeah. There's a story, I'll probably mess it up, but essentially, there's a flood happening and there's a guy on a mountaintop and he's praying to God to just perform a miracle and save him from this flood because, you know, death is imminent, water's rising. So a boat comes by and says, hey, do you want to jump in? We can, you know, get you out of here. He says, no, God's going to do some type of miracle. Then a helicopter comes by, lowers the ladder, same type of thing. Nope, God's going to do a miracle. And he dies. He goes to, you know, meet God and says, why didn't you help me? He said, I did. I sent you two, you know, options, two life rafts, and you denied both of them. So it doesn't have to be this crazy magical thing. It can be very practical. And yeah, we have all the information to be able to get whatever outcome it is that we're wanting. But I really think it goes deeper and that why, you know, we talk about this all the time and Simon Sinek, you know, start with why, but really what's your purpose and how do you find out what your purpose is? Certainly that may change, but I really believe you have to tap into that. And, you know, you can call it God, higher power, you know, whatever you want to call it. But for me, I've really had to focus on that and what is my purpose. And sometimes I can see myself shifting away from that and chasing the wrong things. And you just have to come back and realign yourself.
You know, your story is a great one because it goes back to mindset, and that person on the top of the mountain did not see the boat and the helicopter as opportunities. And so if they would have been seeing things through a different perspective or different mindsets, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna hop on this boat, thanks man, I appreciate
Yep.
the ride, right? So that's so huge. And purpose is so important. And you know, I think people go through this stage where they're in their early 20s and they want to change the world, right? And oh my gosh, and I, you know, whatever that might be. And then afterwards, maybe they realize, oh, well, I'm just a normal person, and not everybody's going to be in an area that society views them as this major known person. And so it's important to be okay with where you are. On
Mm-hmm.
one sense, it's like there's comfort in knowing that, hey, I'm right where I'm supposed to be in life, and that's all right. And it's also important to say, know that our purpose can change and shift with time, as we change, as our mindset changes, we might have different interests, different purposes as we develop. And so as long as and that's where I think it goes back to really spending the time on thinking and evaluating your life and coming to clarity on what's important to me, and what kind of impact do I want to have. And ultimately, we're in this human experience where we're relating to other humans, and it usually comes back to how are we helping our fellow man or woman. I had something interesting happening. I'm in Chico, California, and we just had I don't know when this is going to go out yet, but we just had the park fire start on Wednesday.
Oh, yeah.
Here, and I got an evacuation notice. And I was on a plane to Chicago, and I couldn't get off. And I felt as hopeless as a father and a husband, where my wife was with me, but my 4 kids are home, and they're all in their teens and 20s. So they're adult children, but and some of them went home from college for the summer, and other ones live close by. But like, evacuation order, fire is coming towards our house, get out in the next hour. So they ran home and loaded up, whatever was deemed to be, and we had Wi-Fi in the flight. So we're texting and like, hey, open the safe, grab this, or get this important document, get those really cool kid photo books out of this room, because I don't know if we have get that backup hard drive that's got all the old family photos on it. So they're grabbing all this stuff. And then my family starts texting, and my siblings and friends, hey man, are you guys okay? Do you need anything? So then all of a sudden family members started showing up, some of my siblings and some of my friends, and everybody got together and was like, 2 guys climbed up on the roof, and they're putting sprinklers on the roof and spraying down the house. And it was just so heartfelt and emotional to see how people show up in a time of need. And it meant so much to me that, wow, all these people are there to help. And that was really powerful. And, and then we had this time of about 24 hours where roads are closed, evacuation notice, and fire's gone through, and you don't know if you have a house or not. And it's like, that's pretty stressful. You don't know if you have a place to go back to, and you're waiting and you're waiting for a response. And then I finally got word that our house made it, but literally the fire came up right up to the back of our property. And we just got evacuation notice lifted last night. And I went out this morning and walked the property, and there's still smoldering logs along this fire line. But the Cal Fire came in, and they put a big dozer line and cleared a path and kept it. It's like they did a great job, but they saved our house. But wow, it really was a remarkable testament to how people show up for each other in times of need. And that's purpose right there. That's all you need.
Yeah.
Just be there for people, right?
Yeah. That's what it's all about. Thanks so much for coming on the GrowOrtho podcast. Listeners or viewers, I know some are going to want to get a hold of you. How can they do that?
Email is kevin@kramerleadership.com. If they want more information about the book, they can go to my website, kevinkramer.com. That's Kremer.
Yeah, I believe you can sign up to pre-order the book or be in the know about the order. So I'm going to do that as well. Thanks so much, Dr. Kremer. Really appreciate it.